Excellent. Hi, everybody. It's Friday night, so welcome to another episode of the Asea 5, where your regulars are me, Dr. Mariani. Like I forgot who I was.
How are you?
Galveston,
Look where I have your name down there, Maureen.
I know. I've missed a couple of weeks. I can't remember who I am or what I'm supposed to say. And then, of course, we have Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio, Texas.
Hello.
Jim is our money man, and Ann is our nutritionist and personal trainer. And then, of course, we have Dr. Lee Osler from Washington State, our dentist extraordinaire and the author of Redox Matters. And we have a fan favorite back tonight, someone who has an incredible amount of information that people love to hear from, Russell Mariani, from previously from Massachusetts, now from Canada. And he can talk a little bit about that. And he is an expert on digestive health. He's an author, speaker, international trainer, and somebody that we love to hear about because you know it's all about the gut. So we're going to kick this off, and let me just make a little disclaimer. There's a lot of medical people on here, but it's not a medical company. Asea is not a medical company. We don't have a medical product. We're not here to diagnose, treat, prevent, or cure anything. What this supplement does is it replenishes. It's a bioreplenishment agent that puts redox signaling molecules back into your cells so that your cells can do their job better. And so when you do that, when you give the body what it needs, it does amazing things. It can heal itself. It has that divine power to do it. So, we love the gut. We love our products that are redox products and also our nutritional products. So hopefully Russell will talk a little bit about that. But Russell, come on, give us a little bit more information about your background and also tell us how you got involved with Asea and where you see this for your patients, your clients, and for the health of everybody.
Sure. Thank you, Maureen, and thank you, Lee and Jim and Ann, and welcome everybody to tonight's episode of the Asea 5. My name is Russell Mariani, and somebody just posted Meaford Man. So I am coming to you live from Meaford, Ontario, Canada, which is about 2.5 hours northwest of Toronto. And it's winter wonderland here, lots of snow everywhere. And just about a mile that way is the shores of Georgian Bay, which is it's off Lake Huron, which is one of the Great Lakes. So I'm a health educator and digestive wellness expert. I've been in private practice since 1980. In 2006, I wrote a book called Healing Digestive Illness. And that's pretty much been the primary focus of my practice. It's how I got into the world of natural healing. I was misdiagnosed with colon cancer at the ripe old age of 18 and told that I would need to be on medication every day for the rest of my life. Told that my condition had nothing to do with my diet. And all those things turned out to be incorrect. I did have an inflammatory bowel condition, but by changing my diet, literally within a few weeks, everything started returning to normal. And that was my first experience in the natural healing model. And that experience got my attention, and I went back to school to study the connections between nutrition and health. And that was in the early to mid 70s. And then by 1980, I opened up my own practice. So I've been helping people for a long time to regain the normal functions of their body, not just in their digestive system, but everywhere else. And doing that through proper nutrition, through complementary habits, through exercise and good sleep and proper hydration and kind of all the fundamentals.
Hey, Russell, take us back, if you don't mind, and tell us what kind of changes you made early on and what led you to make those kind of changes at a relatively young age before you were even well educated in the field.
What kind of, so when I had this kind of terrible diagnosis, I had been on a crazy high protein diet for about a year because my high school basketball coach came to me and said, we want you to gain 20 pounds and blah, blah, blah. So I had radically changed my diet. I grew up on a kind of standard American diet. I had no health problems prior to going on to this high protein diet. So when this happened, I was very lucky. There was no internet back then, right? I just went to the local public library and did some basic research and simply found that the type of problem that I had was due to a lack of dietary fiber. Because during that year where I was on this high protein diet, if I had any dietary fiber, it was totally by accident and not by design. So I simply started eating fiber-rich grains and vegetables along with all the normal things I was eating up until that time. And that made a profound difference, literally in a matter of a few weeks. And then I went to school and met some really good people who introduced me to whole foods diet, macrobiotic, traditional Chinese medicine. And then, the holistic tent was wide open at that point, and just been studying ever since.
Wow. And we probably weren't even talking back in those days about the microbiome. So, we knew fiber was good for the heart and all, but, we didn't know that much about the gut or the flora of the gut. So amazing that you made that connection and then went on to become an expert in it. So, now, Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine, right? But I can tell you, as a practicing physician, we would tell people, eat, we were going by that pyramid for years. That was totally wrong. I hate to say it, but, that and eat the rainbow. Most doctors have no idea, have no information or education about nutrition. So very interesting. Thank you.
Hey, Rob, so when did you figure out the water part of nutrition diet?
Yeah. So thank you for asking that question. It's actually pretty interesting story. So even though I healed the digestive system disorder, I literally was symptom free for many, many years. As a consequence of going through the kind of healing crisis that I went through in the 70s and early 80s, I really never felt 100% healthy. Like my best day was like 75, 80%, but I was doing all the things I thought I was supposed to do based on everything I had read and all the seminars and workshops I attended. But for many years, like 25 years, I would experience periodic anxiety attacks that come from nowhere, and then also periods of clinical depression. And I saw many people, many therapists, and no one could get to the bottom of that. And then in 1997, somebody introduced me to the work of Dr. Batman Gelage. And he wrote a book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And I read that book, and I called the publisher on Monday morning because I wanted to talk to this guy. And the publisher connected me with him within a few hours. And I spent the next few hours on the phone with Dr. B, as we call him. And I explained to him, my situation, and that it was this unsolvable problem. And that's when he introduced me, this was 1997, to what we call the water cure, which is a method of hydration based on body weight and activity level. So I weighed 200 pounds. So he was telling me I had to drink 100 ounces of water a day. And I always made sure I had pure water, but I never drank more than 32 ounces of water a day. And that would have been a really good day. So it was kind of astonishing to me that I would be drinking this much water. But I was desperate. I had tried so many other things. And so I started following his water cure. And at the time, I was in one of these periods of depression. It was actually quite bad. On day 14 of drinking my water, I'll never forget, I walked into the kitchen to fill up my third quart of water for the day. And just like that, my body must have gotten hydrated and all those symptoms disappeared. And from that day in 1997 to this day in 2021, I've never had another anxiety attack. I've never had a moment of depression, and everything else in my body has been working so much better since that time. So hydration is transformational. Redox signaling molecules are transformational. As all of us know, if there's one single thing that we can do to help somebody new to redox signaling supplements get the best results possible with the least amount of drag or the least amount of resistance or the least amount of detox or whatever you want to call it, it's to help them be better hydrated when they begin their redox journey.
Okay, Russell, may I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Does it matter what kind of water? Because I know that's going to come up. Filtered water, which is what we use, is there any special thing to the kind of water that you drink?
Yes, I think the number one rule is don't drink tap water. Don't drink unfiltered tap water. Okay, and so if you're just starting out and you can't immediately go out and get a good water purifier or water filter, then buy bottled water. But check out the companies and make sure that they are purifying their water, or at least filtering their water and removing chlorine and other chemicals from the water. So good quality bottled water or good quality carbon block type water filter is really fine. You don't have to invest $4,000 into some, epic machine. That's really not necessary. So water should be pure, purified water, not distilled water. People often make the mistake of drinking distilled water. And of course, distilled is pure H2O. It doesn't exist anywhere in nature. And it not only, people use it to take out toxins from their body, but distilled water also takes out nutrients. So don't drink distilled water, but just good purified water. And according to Dr. B, we also add a small amount, very tiny amount, like 1/4 of a teaspoon per quart of water of just good quality sea salt, because the minerals and trace minerals in the salt function as electrolytes, which allows the water to get into the cells more easily, because that's where we want the water to go, into our cells. 55 to 80% of the physical structure of every cell of our body is water.
Okay,
Hey,
now
how about my beloved Pellegrino? Yay!
good. Okay,
Yay.
what was I going to ask you? I used to be a chug-a-lugger. Gulp, 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 gulp. And the last time we talked, and I want everybody to realize too that there's a lot of new people that listen. We may think that we repeat ourselves a lot, which Maureen does. But sorry, Maureen. But there's a lot of new people that listen to these calls. So how should you drink your water? When should you stop drinking your water so you're not up all night using the little boy's room or girl's room?
Yeah, so actually that's a very good point. I'm happy to, I learned the water cure from Dr. B. There are about 7 points to doing the water cure correctly. And one of them is sipping the water, not gulping or chug-a-lugging. And so you'll see me throughout the program sip a little water. Mm-hmm. Well, I've disciplined myself over the years to sip water and drink a certain amount of water throughout the day. So my discipline is, as I said earlier, I need to drink 100 ounces of water a day. And I promise you, if you don't think that through and plan for it, you won't achieve that. So I make sure I drink a quart of water every morning from the time I wake up before I have breakfast. So I will not sit down and have breakfast until I've had that first quart of water. And then I'm 1/3 of the way done, and it's only 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. And then I drink another quart of water between the time after breakfast and before lunch. And again, I'm sipping the water all the time. I'm not falling behind and then drinking 16 ounces at a time. And then after lunch and before dinner, I drink another quart. So the discipline is I won't sit down for dinner until I've had that third quart of water. And then after that, I technically don't have to drink any more water. So I drink very, very little. And I teach people to drink 90% of their water from the time they wake up until dinner time. And even though I drink 100 ounces of water a day, I usually only wake up once, and that's about half an hour before the alarm goes off. So my sleep is not being interrupted, and I'm not having to wake up. It's interesting that you brought that up, because this was my big concern when I first met and talked with Dr. B. I said, I'm already waking up 4 times a night to pee, and I'm not even drinking 32 ounces of water. What's going to happen if I drink 100 ounces of water? And he laughed and he said, no, you don't understand that your bladder is dehydrated. And so it doesn't retain, it doesn't retain the same amount of fluid, liquid, urine. So everything in your body right now is dehydrated at some level. And so when everything gets properly hydrated, it's going to work better. And sure enough, that's true. So even though I can drink a lot of water every day, I mean, the right amount of water, it's not in any way disrupting my sleep.
Is your
Hey,
100,
go
so
ahead,
you're taking 1 ounces, 100 ounces a day. Is that a formula for you? And what would it be for somebody who's not 200 pounds?
Yes, thanks, Lee. The formula is half our body weight in ounces of water per day. So if you weigh 120, you drink 60 ounces of water. 150, 75 ounces of water. 200, 100 ounces of water. Half our body weight in ounces is the formula. And many elite athletes have learned this, in the last few years. I hear more and more athletes mentioning this, in interviews and talk shows and podcasts. It's very interesting. It's a very, very effective ratio. So half our body weight in ounces is true even if we're sedentary, if we're just sitting around doing nothing. So if we are physically active, for every hour that we're sweating, or we live in a hot climate, or if it's summertime, then we need to drink a little bit more, okay? So half the body weight in ounces is the bare minimum.
So Russell, this is a great book.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a great book. Thank you for writing it. You talk in it about dysbiosis. And, that's what you had when it's 17, 18, and you didn't know it. So tell us what that means. What is dysbiosis? And after you describe it, then if you could follow that with an explanation of what is the redox connection to intestinal health and dysbiosis.
Okay, real quick, Russell, give the title of the book, because I know people are going to be asking the title of the book and where can they get it?
It's The No Diet Way to Complete Health. Amazon is a good source. Is there a different source?
No, that's the best place to get it.
Okay.
You can get it through our website.
Lee, can you go ahead and write that in the comments, because I could not see a good picture of the
I'll
title.
do that.
Yeah, you
Okay,
can't
thanks.
really see that.
Yeah.
Hey, Russell, real quick. What about if you're a coffee or tea drinker? Number one, do you have to replace that? Number two, I always add, and somebody else had mentioned it in the comments, I always add lemon first thing in the morning. So the water I drink in the morning, I put a pinch of Himalayan salt and juice of like half a lemon in my water. What do you think about that? Is there a benefit to that? And is there a benefit to a cold or warm or?
Yeah, so first on salt or lemon, I actually have never added lemon. I mean, in summertime, I'll make lemonade, but my Italian grandmother, who lived to be 94, always drank lemon water. So I know there are therapeutic benefits. It does help. It contributes, nutrients and vitamins to the water. And there's a debate whether lemons alkalinize the water or acidify the water. So I just add salt. But I've talked to enough people who add lemon to their water, and they seem to do just fine. So I'm sure that's perfectly fine. But thank you for bringing up the temperature, because this is a consideration depending on your level of health. So of course, I'm working most of the time with people with very compromised digestive systems. So a lot of gas and bloating and hypersensitive to everything. So if that person is drinking cold water, and cold juice and cold anything. That's literally the first recommendation I make for people with inflammatory bowel. Stop everything that's cold. Don't eat anything that's cold. Don't drink anything that's cold. And so when I introduce those people to the water cure, I recommend that they drink body temperature water, not room temperature water, because even room temperature water will want to get cooler and cooler and cooler. So I drink body temperature water myself at home throughout the day. I'm walking into the kitchen and warming up the water in the kettle. Even in the summertime, I prefer body temperature water. I find it cools my body faster. The water, because it's already body temperature, it absorbs better in my experience. So many people eat and drink cold things and they never connect the dots that's contributing to gas, burping, belching, bloating, and oftentimes it is.
Wow. I had always heard of drink at room temperature, but I hadn't really thought about warming it up. I'll have to give that a shot. But also, can you speak to what happens when you drink tea and coffee and things like that? Do you have to replace that?
Yeah. So Dr. Batman Gallage was adamant on this point. And he said for every 8 ounces of caffeine, whether it's coffee or black tea, you will need to drink at least 16 ounces extra of water. And you may need to drink more because caffeine is a diuretic. It is very dehydrating. Alcohol is very dehydrating. Sugar is very dehydrating. So certain foods, certain habits, if those are part of your current diet, then you may need to compensate and drink a little bit more water.
I think I need an IV.
And we will get to dysbiosis, Lee, for sure. So, yes, I did not know that term. I think the first time I heard the term dysbiosis was 1999. I read a book called Optimal Digestion, where actually I heard the term functional medicine for the first time at that point. So, and I hadn't heard of the term microbiome either, probably until that same year, 1999. So the human microbiome is the ecosystem of organisms that live in the human digestive system, in the intestines. We have a 30-foot long digestive system from the mouth to the rectum. And that 30-foot long tube, if you were to spread it out, it would cover an entire tennis court. So there's a tremendous amount of surface area. And living inside that digestive system is a number of bacterial organisms that's quite staggering in amount. Most scientists agree that when we normally think of the human body, it's about 100 trillion cells, bone cells, kidney cells, liver cells, brain cells, muscle cells. And that's a big number, 100 trillion. Living in the digestive system is a number of bacterial organisms 1,000 times 100 trillion. So it's almost an unfathomable number. And out of those thousands of trillions of individual cellular organisms, 80% of it is supposed to be probiotic, healthy bacteria. And they've discovered at least 4,000 different types of healthy bacteria. And if you have that balance and proportion, 80% probiotic, that's a condition called symbiosis. Symbiosis. But if the percentages start moving in the other direction, and God forbid if you have 80% bad bacteria, that's anything less than 80-20, 80% probiotics is a condition that Dr. Lee mentioned, which is called dysbiosis, which simply means that there's an overgrowth of the wrong kind of organisms. The way I talk to my clients about it, using a garden analogy, when the garden is thriving and the garden is only growing what you have planted, that's called symbiosis. But when the weeds have taken over the garden That's called dysbiosis. And absolutely everybody who's suffering from IBS, gas, bloating, cramping, loose, urgent, frequent bowel movements, or constipated bowel movements, all of those people have intestinal dysbiosis at some level. And, but it can change because the bacteria, first of all, the body knows that that imbalance exists and it doesn't like it. The body doesn't like to suffer. So by changing your diet, by getting better hydrated, by consuming redox signaling molecules, one of my favorite conversations, Lee, back 10 years ago when I first learned about redox was to talk to Gary Samuelson and talk to Dr. Rob Ward. From my perspective as a digestive wellness practitioner, I was very curious to know how the redox molecules would impact the microbiome. And both of them said that the redox molecules know the difference between the good bacteria and the bad, and they feed the good bacteria. It's like when we talk about the redox molecules turning on the healthy genetic codes. The right balance of redox molecules are not going to turn on a code that leads to dysfunction. The redox molecules are only going to turn on genetic codes that improve function and restore health. So the body knows the difference and the redox molecules know the difference and feed the healthy bacteria. You know, I've been to almost every convention in the last 10 years. And one of my favorite things to do at all the Asea events is to introduce myself to new people and ask them their Asea story. And so many people have told me stories of inflammatory bowel and IBS, and they didn't change their diet and they didn't get on probiotics, but they did take the redox signaling supplement, and they saw and experienced dramatic improvement just by making that one change. So we know it has a positive impact on the healthy microbiome.
And of course, we know.
Do you know why?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Lee.
Do you know why?
Do you know why? You just said we know it has an effect. Do you know any more about the mechanisms for, you know the conventional story, but why would something like a supplement like this that has this almost a smart intelligence about it, why would it affect the bowel like it does?
I'm going to begin to answer that question. Then I'm going to defer to my friend who's an expert in these things. So, 80% of our immune system comes from glands in the lining of the small intestine. These glands are called Peyer's patches after the scientist who made the discovery. So the antibody producing component of our immune system, and we've all heard the word antibody in the last 2 years, many, many times. So our immune system knows how to create antibodies for any foreign agent. And the ability of those immune cells to create those antibodies depends on redox signaling. Now, that's about the extent of my knowledge on that, Dr. Osler. So why don't you take it from there? Because I know you know the mechanism of action here.
Well, you flatter me. Yeah, that is an interesting thing to study. One of the things we know about infections generally is they're tightly associated with inflammation. That when there's inflammation, there's also an enhancement of infection. And I think we're going to see more of that as more science comes out in regards to controlling inflammation and actually the other side of inflammation, which is called resolving. There's a lot of things that come from omega-3s and polyunsaturated fatty acids in those metabolic pathways that create biochemicals that help resolve inflammation after it's been arrested. And I think there's some association there. But in the gut, the bad bacteria, if we can just call them bad and good, the bad bacteria have markings on them. They have what's called lipopolysaccharides, or the microbiologists call them endotoxins, and those are very stimulating of this inflammatory cascade, this pathway that alerts the body to their presence. And so this is really, there's not one thing in the mechanism of action that works. For example, the quick way to get rid of bad bacteria in the mouth, aside maybe from the obvious using antimicrobial agents, is to create an environment that favors the good bacteria that can outcompete the bad bacteria. And while we have ability to manipulate that in the mouth quite easily, in my opinion, in the gut, similarly, we have an easy way to do that, and that is by feeding it the right foods, these prebiotics that the bacteria eat on. We think that when we eat, we're feeding us. And if I don't want to get overly gross, but this is just the reality. After you have eliminated your waste in the toilet, if you were to just look at that waste and realize that most of that is bacteria, it's not the food that you ate. And so when we eat, we're feeding the bacteria. So you've got to ask the question, what am I feeding the bacteria? And if I'm feeding it refined, processed foods, it's like feeding the bacteria jet fuel. They burn it quickly, and that creates inflammation. And so from a redox point of view, when we have redox in the environment, the redox signaling that goes on between the bacteria and the intestinal cells in the intestinal wall, that's a very dynamic process, and we don't want to shut that signaling down. We want it to be alive and active, whether it's happening local, like within the bowel, or it's happening systemically in the bloodstream on the other side of the intestinal wall. And so it is a very dynamic thing, but it's a sophisticated mechanism of action, but it has a lot to do with the tamping down of the inflammatory response. So anyway, thank you for going there.
Well, thank you. That was all music to my ears. It might have been a little technical for some lay people, but basically what Dr. Osler just described is the food that we eat is for the bacteria in our intestines. And until you begin to comprehend that, you're eating kind of for the wrong reasons, and you end up feeding the wrong kind of bacteria. So, but the good bacteria, that the probiotics will outcompete the bad bacteria and keep that balance in the proper way if you are hydrated, if you eat prebiotic food, which is organic quality, whole grains and lots of vegetables and fermented vegetables like kimchi and sauerkraut, and taking supplemental probiotics like Biome, which is a product that Asea has, my favorite probiotic, absolutely. I've been taking supplemental probiotics since 1990, and our probiotic Biome is absolutely the best. And so when the good bacteria outcompete the bad bacteria, just one other point on this, because I find it fascinating. People think of the bacteria, they're kind of just hanging out in the intestines, but they do much more than that. The bacteria eat our food, as we've been suggested, and they digest our food, and then they eliminate waste products. So picture every single one of those little organisms, like us, eating food, digesting it, and then eliminating waste. All of the waste products produced by the healthy bacteria are health promoting to the entire gut apparatus, to the entire gut functioning. For example, some of the waste products of the probiotics include all of our B vitamins, which are essential components of our immune system. Another major waste product of the probiotics is antibiotics. One of the most powerful antibiotics ever discovered is something called acidophilin, which is made from the acidophilus bacteria. And it regulates pH. Some of the waste products of the probiotics include hormones, enzymes, digestive enzymes to help break down food. So there are many, many beneficial products in the waste products of the healthy bacteria. And as some of you are already imagining, the opposite is true. That the reason you don't want to feed the bad bacteria is because the bad bacteria eat your food, digest your food, and eliminate waste products. But the waste products of the bad organisms are toxic to our system. And that's what leads to the gas, the bloating, the cramping. And those toxins are supposed to stay contained inside the intestines. But if you have dysbiosis, if you have too many bad organisms producing toxins constantly, it creates inflammation inside the gut, which leads to a literal expansion of the intestinal wall, and we call that leaky gut syndrome. And then those toxins that are supposed to be contained become systemic, and they can cause mood disorders, skin disorders, rashes, headaches. But the problem, the origin of those symptoms and many others is in the gut. So you want to make sure you contain all those toxins in the gut and send them to the toilet bowl, nowhere else.
I love our biome because of the slippery elm that's in it and how effective it is. But I've read most of your book, which I love, and you talk in great length about redox signaling and the importance of it. And I know Dr. Ward used to say, good sleep, proper eating, healthy eating, and exercise will all make your redox signaling more effective. So how do you incorporate in the formula to your people that come in, your patients that come in, and they obviously need help? Where do you start with the redox signaling? Because that's what makes everything else healthy work better. And if you don't have enough redox signaling, there's no cell communicating, then all this other long list of stuff people think they have to do is really not going to be effective unless they get up, replenish, as Maureen said, replenish your redox signaling that's clearly depleting with age. So where do you start in your conversation with somebody about redox? Like, how do you tell them what it is, or, so they understand it?
Sure, that's a great question, Ann. Thank you. So in my approach to health and healing, I use the functional medicine model or the functional nutrition model. And we've identified 7 root cause areas. So that's where I begin the conversation with everyone. And one of those 7 root causes is hydration. One of those 7 root causes is micronutrient supplements. One of those 7 is our macronutrient diet, so breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. One of those root cause areas is intestinal dysbiosis, or the intestinal health. One of those root cause areas is oxidative stress. And one of those root cause areas is redox signaling. So it's part of the overview that I give to each person that I work with. So they know from the very first conversation that redox signaling supplement is going to be part of their recovery program. Okay. And so one of the root cause areas that I left out is something that I refer to as mindfulness. But what I mean by mindfulness is our habits. And in the way I understand the functional nutrition model, the first principle is the body is constantly healing itself. The body is constantly seeking homeostasis. And then the second principle is when it comes to the choices that we make for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, supplements, medications, sleep and rest, exercise, all of those decisions, nothing is neutral. Everything is either complementary or insulting. Everything is either promoting or empowering the body to restore homeostasis, or it's actively getting in the way. So the very first thing I ask everyone to do is to take out 2 pieces of paper and think about their current state of knowledge about health and nutrition. And on one piece of paper, write down all of their insulting habits, things they already know they shouldn't be doing. Or if they really wanted to get serious about their health, simply wouldn't be doing or wouldn't be doing as much of. And then on another piece of paper, write down all of the complementary habits that if they practiced more consistently, they know within a week they would be feeling much better. So that's the first step. Then the second step with everybody is hydration. Because they can start that right away, they're going to have to wait 5, 7, 10 days to get their first order of the Redox supplement. So those are the first two things I do with everybody. And when they get their Redox supplement, and I have everybody order the Redox water, the Redox liquid, and the Renew 28. And I did not do this for many years. In fact, I've only started doing this in the last 2 years. But now with each person, when their Redox supplements arrive, I get on Zoom with them and I have them take their first drink of Asea, hold it in their mouth. I tell them about the potential pool water taste, but then I have them do the Renew 28. And this is my favorite activity, rubbing it on the carotid artery 3 times in 5 minutes. And anywhere else where they might be having some discomfort. And so I didn't do that for years. I just would send them written instructions and, follow up a week or 2 later. But I have found that if you could be in person, that's ideal. But make the time to be with people on Zoom and show them how to do this, how to use the Redox supplements correctly and consistently. Get them started in the right way and get them started on the right foot. It makes a huge difference in their compliance. They'll remember it. They'll remember that session that you had with them when you first introduced them to Renew 28 and Asea Redox.
And using the tracker that comes in their box. So they can start their journey with how they're feeling before their score. May not be so great for some. And then where they are each week after week, because it takes, if you don't set expectations, 90% see a change in 90 days, then they're going to give up. Oh, it's not working. And they didn't give it the time. The body needs time to regenerate 75 trillion cells. So that tracker in the box is ideal to use. So you can see, some stuff changes quicker than others.
So Russell, how do you educate people on you've got to give your body time to do the repair work? Don't give it a week or 2 or 3 or a month or 2 or 3. How do you advise people regarding that?
Yeah, so for me, it's just straight out science. Every cell of our body has a life cycle. Most of the cells of our body have a life cycle of 90 to 120 days. So that's 3 to 4 months. So that means the day you start drinking Asea and using Renew 28, billions of cells are at the end of their life cycle. Well, those cells didn't get the benefit of Redox more than a couple of hours. But tomorrow, many more billions of cells are coming to the end of their life cycle, et cetera, et cetera. So based on science, the absolute minimum amount of time that any serious person, thinking person, is going to allow themselves with anything that has the potential to dramatically improve their body, the absolute minimum time frame is 3 to 4 months. I always tell people, give this 6 months. And I also say to people, there is no question that this is working. So please, I've actually been in conversations with people. I said, you're not ready to order yet, if you can believe that. I didn't always do this, but in other words, if someone says to me, I'll give it 30 days, I'm like, no. I'm not, this is not on trial. Okay. So let's go back. Let's review some more videos or read some more stuff. I'll do it with you on Zoom, but don't make this investment until you're fairly certain what it is that you have here. Because when you understand what you have, it's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. And
Okay, I've got to ask this question real quick because this is the fastest hour in ASEA. Speak to the young people and to the people that say, I'm healthy, I don't need this.
Yet.
Yeah, right. I call them until people.
Or
Well, I don't need it until something breaks down.
Or they don't know something's brewing.
But speak to the young people and those that say, I'm healthy, I don't need it. Redox. And then what is redox? I don't think we've answered that yet. In your words.
In a roundabout.
Yeah. So I actually was looking forward to this very question. What is redox? Because I have prepared a statement that I would like to read. And that statement is on the back cover of this book. And last night, as I was preparing, I have a lot of highlighted areas in this book. This is absolutely just such a fabulous job. But last night, I read this just before I went to bed, and I thought, my God, that has got to be one of the best descriptions I've ever heard. So please listen to this. The discovery of redox signaling is one of the most important medical breakthroughs of our lifetime. Redox signaling molecules are the deepest cell signaling molecules ever discovered. They are naturally produced in the mitochondria inside every cell. And they control all cellular health functions. They control all cellular health functions. They live and work at the interface of energy and matter. That's my favorite sentence. You could talk for hours about what that means. They live and work at the interface of energy and matter, where cellular communication activates biological programming and animates all cell processes, including the energy of life itself. Redox activated cell talk is how cells know how to respond to and prevent oxidation, inflammation, and disease. This is the innate detect, repair, and replace mechanism built into our cellular blueprints, our cellular DNA. And redox signaling molecules activates this process. This is the inner doctor. And I love that term, but I like to say the inner healer. This is the inner doctor. This is the inner healer. When it is awake and well, we are too.
Right.
Without it, we have wrinkles, weight gain, lost memories, hurting joints, vascular problems, immune disorders, accelerated aging, hormone problems, and much more medical intervention. Those are the best few sentences ever about redox signaling.
Thank you, Dr. Osler.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Osler.
We're so blessed to have them.
Yes.
Okay, so
Fantastic.
So
thank
why
you for
young
that.
people? Why young people?
and healthy people.
Yeah. So healthy people so that you stay healthy.
That's right.
So you optimize all the other things that you're already doing to be healthy. Nobody is healthy in the 21st century without consciously doing a lot of complementary habits. They're already taking good supplements. They're already eating good food. They're already exercising. They're already hydrated. It's a lot of work in the 21st century to be healthy, and not too many people are. And so adding redox signaling supplements to an already healthy body, that healthy body is going to experience dramatic improvement that they will be able to notice. And so for young people, it's the ultimate assist. I mean, you want to optimize performance in whatever area, dancing, athletics, running, rowing. I mean, you name the activity, and you're going to do it better, faster, quicker, higher, whatever, as we can attest to. We have elite athletes who support our cause. We have many Olympic athletes who take the Redox supplements. So for optimum performance and for prevention of problems, this is the ultimate and it's based in science. I mean, redox signaling is the foundation underneath all other activities.
And the athlete needs to take more often. There's oxidative stress, their body's, getting torn down, maybe doing too much. So I know from our own athletes that we've heard, they, like Sean Burke, they take it
Dexter.
regular amounts throughout the day, and then an amount like we do before we go to sleep, because when you sleep, you repair your body, has that many hours without the redox. So I think it does good to do it right before bed. I mean, that's just what works for us. Yeah.
I agree. First thing, last thing, because as you just said, last thing, because you're not drinking while you're sleeping. And so you definitely want to take some before you go to bed. And first thing, because you've been sleeping for several hours and your body is depleted when you wake up. And then during the day, absolutely. And that will vary from person to person.
Right.
But I know I'm going into the kitchen and pouring myself a little Asea throughout the day.
That's awesome.
Maureen?
Hey, Russell, I want to go back to the hydration thing. There's been a couple of questions from people, including my husband. What if you are fluid restricted, or if you are on a medication that causes you to diurese? What do you tell those people when it comes to hydration? Do you have other recommendations?
So I actually haven't come across anyone that couldn't improve hydration. So there are some situations, of course, where people are either on restricted diets or because of certain medications or combination of medications. So in those circumstances, I always recommend that they talk to their prescribing physician, but I also recommend that they let me talk to their prescribing physician. And usually once the doctor has heard me talk about the water cure and talk about hydration, they're usually agreeable. And the key there is just to ease into it. It might take a whole month to go from whatever amount of water you're currently consuming to the recommendation of half our body weight in ounces.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a lot of water when you think about it. So I'm sure I'm drinking coffee, so I'm gonna have to drink 16 ounces to make up for 1 cup of coffee.
So Russell, a related question there is there's been several comments, and I can't say that I haven't had this thought myself regarding the color of urine, as somebody's indicator. If it's a bright yellow orange, then you're dehydrated, and if it's less colored, then you're good. Is that in your experience, is that a fair way to analyze it?
Yes, and of course,
Or would you rather have them measure it in ounces than go by the color?
Yeah, well, so when I first did the water
not the
cure,
urine in ounces. I'm not measuring that. I'm not
but
half your body weight.
back in 1997, when I first learned this, I was talking to Dr. B like every week, and he had me measure the inflow of water and the outflow of urine. And I had never done that. And what was interesting about that is he said, and it's true every time I've done it, it will be within a few ounces. The amount of water that you drink will translate into the number of ounces that you release in a 24-hour period. So that's interesting. And the color of urine, again, Dr. B was very clear. In the morning, of course, when you've been sleeping several hours, it's completely normal to have some variant of the color yellow for your first of the morning pee. But through the rest of the day, the water should be fairly clear. Maybe the color of light beer or straw color, but dark yellow is definitely a sign of potential kidney stagnation because the kidneys aren't being hydrated enough. And orange colored urine is definite serious territory. And you're seriously dehydrated if your urine is orange.
Good info.
Please, I mean,
We
nobody's
talk
gonna do
about
this.
so many wonderful things. We talked about poop. We talked about
Yeah,
pee.
and poop.
Well,
What
we
a
talked about
call.
bacteria poop, but urine.
It's the gut night, so it is the gut night.
It is gut night, but urine is awesome. I started as a urology resident. We used to shake the urine because you can learn a lot, not just from the color, but the color of the foam. So that's a discussion for another night.
So Maureen, everybody remember the comic strip guy, Larson? He wrote a comic strip called The Far Side.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have on the bulletin board in my office this single drawing of a cartoon, and it shows the urology department and then a bunch of nurses and doctors and a nurse answering the phone, and she says, "Urology, can you hold?"
That's cute.
I love that. Yeah, I can share some pretty good stories there. Urology was fun.
Oh,
Now, you guys, it's 3 minutes to the hour. This did fly by, and this is such great information. And something so simple, Russell, that people can do for their health is to get well hydrated. It's foundational, and it will make the redox molecules work better too. So go ahead, Ann.
well, just that, and redox signaling is the missing link, because we can go through all the years we've all learned about nutrition and what I learned in college, but nothing is intracellular like what redox signaling does. And you brought up Renew 28. I mean, people should be using that every day, multiple body parts, multiple times a day, because they're going to get more redox signaling every time they use the Renew 28. It's not limited to just a pretty skin or just discomfort. There's so many other things that modality can remedy. So,
And redox also, real quick, has a way of cleansing the cells, and the water intake is going to help get rid of those impurities and minimize what we call a rebalancing back to homeostasis. Can you just touch on that real quick? The detoxing, the rebalance.
Sure. So the cells are constantly taking in nutrients, metabolize nutrients, water, and oxygen, metabolizing those nutrients, converting those nutrients into enzymes, into hormones, into all the things that the cells need in order to do their job. And in the process of that metabolic activity, the cell also generates metabolic waste that is toxic to itself, and that has to be eliminated effectively. And the ability to do all those things that we just mentioned depends upon the balance of redox signaling molecules. So to me, they're all equally important. But, the basic problem is people's cells are dysfunctioning. They're inefficient. And so by bioreplenishing with the redox signaling molecules, we raise the level of efficiency of every cell, and all of those activities, the taking in, metabolizing, and the detox. So as a nutritionist, let me just finish with this. You can eat the best food in the world. You can take the best nutritional supplements. But if you're deficient in redox signaling molecules, you will not get the benefit of all those things. So it is through the action of redox signaling that the nutrients, the micronutrients, get utilized inside the cell. So you want to optimize your nutrition, you need to start taking the redox signaling supplements.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we could go a whole nother hour just on the nutraceuticals that we have, but we have to stop there. So guys, we love doing this. This is our way of paying it forward. And I just want to say to the audience, please invite people to come here every Friday, where you're going to have just really down to earth poop and pee talk about when we have Russell, we know that's what the topic's going to be. But guys, we educate people on what these molecules are. And the reason why is that we're so passionate about what we have. and we are the only provider of redox molecules on the planet. So what we'd like to ask is, please get back to the person that invited you to the call and start taking the molecules. And don't just take a little bit, take more than what you need to get your body built back up. So guys, we love this. We do have Dr. Richard Michael next Friday. He's a phenomenal doctor. He graduated from Duke. That was where my grandfather played football a long time ago. But we will be taking the following 2 weeks off. So we will come back January what?
7th.
January the 7th. We're going to actually have our Charles Funky, our president and CEO, will be the guest that we have for our first show December or in January 2022. I can't believe that.
Yep.
So guys,
So these are good to
Maureen,
invite somebody. Invite somebody.
Yeah.
That's
that's the whole thing. Invite people to
Yeah.
come and learn what these are. This is why we do this, is to help educate and share the knowledge, share the great wealth with Dr. Osler, with Maureen, and an amazing guest like Russell.
yeah.
Hey, I don't know if you guys see it, but people are already asking for Russell to come back next month. So I say, you know what? If you guys will commit to drinking half your weight in water every day, drink your redox signaling molecules, read Russell Mariani's book, read Dr. Osler's book, then we'll have them back on. How does that sound? We'll see how everybody's doing. I think that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, and Russell, you really are, to me, one of the more important guests that we have. I love all of our guests, but this is just such important information. We want the molecules to work the best, and what you just talked about is phenomenal. Guys, we
Yes.
will have the recording in Vimeo within the next 2 hours. Will be up on Asea United. Get back to the person that got you on the call, and they will be able to get you a copy of the video for tonight in a Vimeo video. So guys, thank you so much. We love you all, and we will see you
Bye.
next Friday. Thank you all.
Merry
God bless.
Christmas. I'll see you
Bye,
in the
y'all.
new year, everybody. Love ya.
Have a great weekend.